Hello, everyone. All right, this is me. I'm Ashley Farley from the Bill Melinda Gates Foundation, and thank you very much for inviting me to be speaking at the first OpenCon of Electrical Chemical Society. It's a great honor to be here. At the foundation, for the past 2 years, I've been focusing on our open access policy implementation and other open access initiatives, which I'll discuss today. Open access has become a passion of mine, and I believe that knowledge should be a public good, and I feel very lucky to be able to work towards that goal every day. So this quote is prominently displayed at the Gates Foundation as a reminder of the power of collaboration. And I believe that collaboration is a critical part of the discussion of open science, and as thus, I would like to invite the audience to participate in today's keynote. So prepare to get out your laptop or phone, and everybody who is virtually watching can also participate. So we're going to use poll everywhere to interact during the talk. I'm going to ask a few questions to get to know you all a little better, and you can use your laptop or smartphone to respond. I also invite everyone to tweet. These instructions are at #FreeTheScience. So if you're using your phone, you will send a text message of Ashley Farley 233 to the number 22333, and then it'll let you know that you successfully connected. And if you're participating via a web browser, you can go to pollev.com/AshleyFarley233. So I'll leave these up for a minute while everybody gets connected, and then we'll get started. I also wanted to let you know that the answers will be completely confidential, and none of the data will be saved. And I promise it's supposed to be fun. Okay. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the foundation, we'll do a quick overview. In order to be successful, we have to focus on a set of problems, and to do that, we ask ourselves two key questions. What are the areas of greatest need, and where can we have the greatest impact? And the intersection of these two questions has led to the formation of our program teams. So we have global health, which focuses on discovering and developing affordable vaccines, drugs, and diagnostics for people in the developing world. Global development focuses on delivering health and development solutions that help people lift themselves out of poverty. Our United States program focuses on ensuring that all students graduate from high school prepared for college and have an opportunity to earn a post-secondary degree. We have global policy and advocacy, which promotes public policies and building strategic alliances to achieve greater impact. And then we have communications, which builds awareness of foundation priorities and promotes engagement around issues of education, global health, and poverty. So for our first question, which best describes you? So what brings you to this OpenCon event today? So you should be able to text in an answer or enter it on the web browser. If the technology isn't working, we will roll with it. All right, we got one. A librarian, yes, awesome. And of course, participation is not required, but it is encouraged. All right, well, that's okay. We'll roll with it. So what is open science? So far, it's been difficult for the community to reach a consensus on the definition of open science and what open science practices look like. I'll provide my perspective on several components that I feel fall under the umbrella of open science, which are open access, open publication, and open data. Three of these components I will focus, these are the focuses that I will focus on today. Of course, these aren't the only components, but they are critical ones to get us moving in the right direction. So this is going to be a sad word cloud if we only have one person participating. But I'm curious, what do you think? What words do you associate with open science? So feel free to just throw out any word. You can text it. And please do keep it PG. My boss and I tested this, and it does not filter out bad words. Great. There are also the instructions at the top as well. I like it. All right, see some themes coming out, free, very nice. Equity, that's one of my favorites personally. Democracy, great. Awesome, we'll take a couple more seconds. Great, I love this, this is awesome. All right, first I'm going to talk about open access and what it means to the foundation and the open access initiatives that I work on. All right, how many people have a subscription access to journal content? And it could either be, yes, thanks to your institution you have access, or if you pay for it personally, or if typically you don't have a standard journal source. So you'd have to find something that's openly available or use other means. All right, well, that proves my point for open access, so we are good to go. Good, awesome. We'll let some more come in. Great, so this is showing a lot of people don't have a standard subscription access, especially outside of an institution. Wow. Awesome, great, thank you. Oh, we got one that's personal subscription. All right. So who has or benefits from closed access? You must have a subscription to access the information, and oftentimes the underlying data then isn't available. And if you don't have a subscription or the ability to pay for article access, you either go without or you need to know of resources to help you find a legally or sometimes illegally available copy. And closed access is particularly oppressive to individuals in the global south, and access is a privilege many don't have. But this doesn't have to be the case. So who benefits from open access? Everyone. With open access to research articles, many more stakeholders will be able to participate in science and innovation. This will amplify impact, increase finding innovative solutions, and facilitate greater collaborations. Access to credible research information is critical for informed decision-making for any stakeholder. So as with open science, the definition of open access can vary. So this is the foundation's definition and the requirements of our open access policy. And this applies to all grant agreements signed after January 1st, 2015. So the first term is that it just must be open access. There's no paywall involved. There's no requirement or onus for payment on the person looking to access the information. We require the Creative Commons CC BY license. We feel that that is the most flexible open license that allows for reuse of any material without any legal concern or obligation. And it needs to be immediately available. We don't want the article to be paywalled or embargoed for any certain amount of time. We want that as soon as it's ready for publication, it's open and available for anyone to access. And then we want the underlying data to be available as well. And then our commitment as the foundation is to pay the reasonable APCs or article processing charges associated to publish that article open access and compliant with our policy. And one of the best aspects of our policy is that it's clear and simple. There's 4 requirements and we pay the fees. These fees stem from a central budget that we manage so that the fees don't come out of individual grant budgets. This takes away the burden of grantees needing to guess the potential cost of open access publications. It ensures that more grant dollars are going to the research and not the reporting of it. And we don't limit the number of articles that can arise from a single grant, and nor do we impose a timeline. Even closed grants can benefit from the policy. While the grant agreement, for all grant agreements after January 1st, 2015 must comply, we welcome any older grants to take advantage of the policy as well. So this is our why for supporting open access. Historically, like many institutions, we've struggled a bit with managing our accessibility to research outputs. Even internal information can often be siloed, and this means that the efforts seeking solutions in each program team aren't easily discoverable or shareable and are potentially not leading to further discovery and innovative solutions. So in order to build a better system of tracking and curating research outputs, we created a policy to facilitate sharing and management of research. And this is the first step in ensuring these barriers and supporting collaboration across teams. We saw this as an opportunity to free the science that we fund. And creating the policy also provided us with an opportunity to align our knowledge management with our core values. So open access is a fundamental element of the Gates Foundation commitment to information sharing and transparency. We believe that by freely sharing high-quality research as soon as it's available, we and our partners can develop more efficient and effective strategies to tackle the problems we're trying to solve. And then open access levels the playing field for scientists across the world and increases global contribution. So my question to you, does your institution or funder have an open access policy mandate? Nice. I appreciate that some are willing to say they don't know. Sometimes it can be very confusing to figure out what policies your institution has. But more and more funders and institutions are beginning to create policies to promote the open access sharing of their research outputs. Great, awesome. Awesome, thanks. When announced, we received positive support from the likes of Vox and Nature, who deemed it the strongest policy in open access, as well as Adam Savage tweeted, which means the policy is pretty legit. Of course, this work would not have been possible without the help of other institutions and funders who had created open access mandates before us, especially the Wellcome Trust. This is another example of the success of community collaboration, and we hope to help other funders and institutions develop similar policies. So our policy is being heralded as being bold, as we do not allow for any exceptions. This has shown that we're quite serious about ensuring that our research outputs are open and that it's a high priority for us. It has helped us have conversations with non-compliant publishers to reach agreements to facilitate publishing in open access terms. Our goal is to work with publishers to reach compliancy so that our authors can publish in journals of their choice. And we understand that career advancement is a very serious concern, but so is ensuring that our research outputs are openly available to all. Since announcing our policy in 2015, we've been able to reach agreements with New England Journal of Medicine, the Journal of American Medical Association, and the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. So outside of work, because I love open science this much, I was lucky to be a part of a team of researchers who wanted to investigate the current state of open access to research publications. So this is a small portion of the entire analysis, but to me it's the most interesting part. And kind of drilling down to what we see here is, so articles with DOIs. DOIs are a digital object identifier, so it's a way to track an identity. And not articles have DOIs, which is listed as a study limitation. However, we were able to see that about 27% of publications are open access at this point in time. And then using a browser extension called Unpaywall, which I definitely recommend, you can use it. It crawls the web for legally open available copies of research articles. So comparing the data, we were able to see within a week of user activity using Unpaywall that people were able to find 47% of the time an openly available source of the research material. So this is showing that people are looking for open available copies of research content, and about half the time they're able to find open options. And so this shows that there's a great opportunity to make further work available and that there's an appetite for it. So which is most important to you in regards to scholarly communication? I will say that all of these are definitely important concerns when thinking about how to share your work. And then we also take this into consideration when thinking about future policies to adopt and ways to highlight the importance of open access. Great, awesome. I'm glad to see collaboration being a factor. And we will move on. So open access, as I've defined, focuses mainly on access to research articles and associated data. But what about the publication process itself? Can it be more open? The answer is yes. In thinking about publication themselves, we wanted to move past the concept of the scientific article as a static document. That's not quite how science works. It's more of an iterative process. And so much of the current publishing process is hidden, and this is lost knowledge. The typical process of publication involves writing up your research in the specific format required by the journal that's your top choice. Then you submit the manuscript through a system with a lot of required fields, and then your paper, if it doesn't have to be filtered for novelty, enters into the peer review process. And this stage can take several months or even longer depending on the availability of peer reviewers who are very giving of their time. And if your manuscript passes this stage, awesome. You get to move on to proofing and final editing. If your paper is rejected, you get to pick another journal and start the process over again. And meanwhile, your insights and analysis haven't seen the light of day. And what if this process was different? And this is the main reason we created Gates Open Research. Following the excellent example by the Wellcome Trust with the Wellcome Open Research, we've partnered with F1000 to use their technology and process to create a new publishing option for Gates-funded grantees, and we're launching it this fall. And the beauty of Gates Open Research is that it allows research to be disseminated without delay. As well as speeding up the process, it also increases transparency and makes reproducing the results much easier. So what's different about Gates Open Research? So it's fast, publications are available within a week, it's inclusive, so it doesn't have to meet a novelty standard, any type of article type is welcome to be published on the platform. It's open, so it fulfills our Foundation's open access policy. It supports reproducibility and making data linked and easily available. It's transparent. And it's easy, and we cover the costs, which are for article processing charges are quite reasonable. So how does it work? So you submit your publication, it goes through a basic editorial a check for scientific soundness, and then it's up on the site, it's available for everybody to see, and then the referees are invited, and then it moves forward in the process to, if it passes the peer review, it is then indexed in popular indexing sites. So the biggest thing about Gates Open Research is that it has open peer review. And so without drilling down into the details too much, we have a different tick system, but everything is available to see. You can read all of the referees, you can read all of their reports, and everything is open and available. And so it has approved and approved with reservations or a not approved status. And once it meets a certain status, then it means it's a published document that is then indexed. And the data and software is all available and linked in the notes, so there's no emailing the author for the data set, which is no longer acceptable way to share science. So what about making the process of scientific publishing easier? This is where I think there's a massive opportunity to make the publishing process easier and more streamlined. Adding funding mandates for publication, like we have done, can slow down this already laborious process, especially if grantees have multiple funding sources. And thus, when considering creating our policy, we wanted to build a tool that hasn't existed before to make complying and publishing under policy easier and more effective. So we have built Chronos. So with Chronos, researchers can search an extensive database of journals to locate journals that comply with our open access policy. It's clearly marked when a journal is not compliant and submission is then not allowed, and we then help them find a compliant option. So here's what that process looks like. You can see we have a compliant journal. They'd be able to submit. Chronos packages up that data and passes it directly on to the editorial system, and then enters peer review, and then we can follow up with Chronos in that process to pay the invoice for the publishing fees. And what's so great about this is it's given us data that we haven't had before. And so we can see how many articles are in a certain status, we can see how long the article time from submission to acceptance is, and this is helping us notice trends of our grantees and authors in ways that we wouldn't know otherwise. We're able to see which organizations publish the most and which journals they publish in the most. And this is important information as we learn about our grantees' publishing habits and as we work towards more openness. and also tracking impact, which is very important. So we are now using altmetric to track each of our articles' potential impact, and we're striving to shift the culture so that the potential impact outcomes of the research are more important than where it's published. And this is the type of information from that last article that you can see. We can see global reach, we can see news outlets that picked up this story, and as well as mentions of social media. So the last component is publication. So publications are a critical part of knowledge dissemination, and data is critical to reproducibility and reuse of research. And in order to support those type of activities and reproducibility, you need to be able to have the data findable. And currently, it feels like it's finding a needle in the haystack. It oftentimes involves a lot of emailing back and forth and difficulty of really understanding the data once you have it. This is an example of 4 different articles where I tried to find if it was easy to access the underlying data, and these are all published open access. And each publisher handles it differently, but I think there's a lot of opportunity here to improve this process. Most of these data sets aren't identifiable on their own. They're in PDF or Word documents. They're not machine readable or accessible by AI technology. And why is open data so important? So here's a study that was recently published in the New England Journal of Medicine. And it was one of the largest studies. They used over 50,000 pregnant women around the globe. And they were able to identify 6 gene regions that influence the length of pregnancy and the timing of birth. And a lot of this information actually came from the NIH. And if you have extensive and freely available data sets, medical researchers are better positioned to identify underlying causes of the preterm death and effective treatments for them. So it allowed researchers to have more confidence in the conclusions they were drawing because they were able to collect large open data sets instead of working with kind of a smaller subset. And then this information is going to be stored on the March of Dimes Prematurity Research Center database, and so that's going to allow for further research. So we know that there's unprecedented potential for data and information to transform the lives of the 21st century, so let's unlock that potential. So in the interest of time, I'm going to skip over this one. But I will tell you, science needs to be more open. And the benefits just aren't for the readers. Open access to your research can increase your citation counts and set the stage for potential collaboration. So what can you do to be more open? So for your work, you can edit, review, or work for only open access journals. You can publish open access, share your work, whether it's in preprint form, post-publication. You can use open access tools, whether open source or closed. There are so many amazing options. Just ask me later and I'll love to share that with you. You can cite openly available work, share your data, but just make sure you give it the proper context. You can support principles and guidelines. I've listed a few really popular guidelines here. I encourage you to look them up and see kind of what are their goals. BulliedintobadScience.org is one of my favorites for early career researchers. And then TogetherScienceCan.org is a recently started initiative. They've got some fantastic videos and to really motivate and highlight the importance of collaboration. And what can you do to be more open for others' work? You can ask others to support open practices, especially if you're in a power of influence. That's very important. You can promote those who are open and collaborate with researchers. You can highlight others who are practicing open access, and you can become an advocate yourselves. Grab a pin out front, put it on, live open access. So change is hard and often feels that the system is taking forever to see any noticeable difference. But it's hopeful and the future is bright, and everyone in this room has the power to start taking the steps to build toward a more open and impactful future. Thank you.